Somebody said, nowadays, if you're not depressed, you're not paying attention. We will say this, if you're not angry or frustrated right now, consider yourself fortunate. You should be very grateful. Let's take just a moment and consider some reminders of things you and I can do in order to cope with negativity the best we can, with the way our brain works. Our brains are amazing. In fact, they don't lack capacity. Experts say that you and I could continue to form new synapses to last more than a lifetime. So storage is not the problem. The problem for us is overwhelm. You and I can become overwhelmed with too much information coming at us too fast. And especially if that information is of a negative nature. And that's the situation that we find ourselves in now. You and I are overloaded by a tremendous influx of negativity. Just imagine somebody juggling and they're doing fine with 4 or 5 balls, keeping them all in the air. But then all of a sudden somebody starts throwing in more balls, and instead of being symmetrical and evenly weighted, let's say they start throwing in torches that are on fire and butcher knives that are sharp. See how even an experienced juggler would be overwhelmed with this influx of new things that he has to juggle? That kind of summarizes what you and I are contending with. No wonder we're struggling to maintain an even equilibrium. No wonder anxiety-related symptoms are on the rise all around the world. So with regard to our brains, with regard to processing this overwhelming amount of negative information that comes our way, let's look at some tried and true things that can help us to be at our best. The first one we want to start with is writing. Now, the ability to write is not evenly distributed. In fact, animals, as far as we know, can't do it at all. And humans, some really don't enjoy putting anything down on paper. Others are prolific writers. But here's why you might consider getting better, doing more writing than you're doing now. Writing allows you to take things out of your brain and put them in a manageable place. You see, we've probably all had the experience of forgetting to do something that was important to us. And so when we're just keeping the reminder in our brain, we might also be keeping anxiety associated with, oh, what if I forget? But as soon as we put it down, put it on paper, maybe post that paper in a prominent spot, anxiety related to forgetting is mitigated. Writing things down also helps to take them out of the emotional realm and into the practical, manageable realm. That's not to say that you and I shouldn't write down how we feel about things. In fact, that can be very medicinal. Write down what's going on, positive and negative, and how you feel about it, but try to turn the corner. As you write, try not to stay in the negative zone. Discipline yourself to bring gratitude as often as possible into what you write. So that's the first tip, is go ahead and get things out of your brain and onto paper. Not that your brain can't handle it, but it may make it easier to deal with all the other things that your brain is being asked to contend with. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is sleep. Now, this is not to say that we should just sleep through our problems, although that's kind of tempting sometimes. No, sleep has the ability to rid us of negative emotion and anxiety. Now, this is complicated because sometimes in the middle of the night we may relive traumatic experience. So sometimes it seems like sleep is not our friend. But here's what we've learned. Sleep can be like the street sweeper of the brain. And what does it sweep away? Well, not our memories, but it sweeps away emotion associated with the memories. And exactly how it does this, we don't really understand. But we've all experienced nostalgia, where we look back on something that happened to us in the past, and maybe we primarily remembered the good things. And then people have to remind us, well, that vacation wasn't all as wonderful as you're remembering it. There were problems. Why do we not remember the problems? It's because we've gone to sleep, and the process of sleeping has swept away the emotion that's associated with those memories. So we can use that. By getting enough sleep on a regular basis, you and I can manage the negative emotion that we're confronted with. By way of reminder, be careful with the use of alcohol and don't overeat before going to bed. Both of those are going to help us to have a better, more refreshing night's rest. And hopefully, by getting that sleep, we'll be able to wash away some of the anxiety and negative emotion that we're dealing with. A third tip is support. Now, we might say friendship, and certainly friendship is part of the support, but some friends actually can be a drain. And we're not advising to get rid of your friends that need you. But here's what we do want. You and I want to have a system in place to monitor where we are emotionally. And when we need more positivity in our lives, let's seek out those friends that can bring positivity our way. And then once we're built up, then maybe we can handle those that demand a little bit more giving on our part. Now, here's why this is so valuable. Positive friends, positive support in our circle is more affordable and more valuable than therapy. There's nothing against professional therapists and coaches, but see, they have a limited amount of time to see us. It also costs money every time you want to talk to a therapist or a coach. And having a good friend that knows you well can provide you with a kind of talk therapy that is actually just as medicinal and just as helpful in many cases as professional help. Now, if you're suffering from clinical depression, go ahead and get professional help. But for most of us, we can mitigate our negativity by just having somebody that we trust, somebody that we care about and who cares about us, and we spend our time pouring our heart out to them. Now, just as therapy costs us money, we've got to pay for those visits, friendship costs us, and it primarily costs us in time and attention. So if you value somebody in your life, somebody who's part of your support system, try to buy out the time to give them completely undivided attention. Don't be multitasking. Go ahead and make yourself available for them, and hopefully they will do the same for you. And that way, the cost is not financial, but it is the time that it takes to maintain the relationships. So these are 3 reminders. Number 1, write things down. Number 2, get plenty of rest. Number 3, have a support system. And even though you and I know those things, sometimes we forget. And when we forget, we're going to notice that we become more symptomatic. Anxieties will build up in us like toxins. So try to remember to do these things. Also, if you have other tips that help you to deal with anxiety, let us know in the comments. And perhaps all of us can have a better chance of coping with anxiety in the days to come.